Everyone wants a big change, a big break, a big moment. But life rarely changes in one loud explosion. It changes quietly. In the smallest decisions you make when no one is watching. One extra step, one brave choice, a small habit repeated daily. This is the story of how tiny actions, so small they seem, useless, can rewrite an entire destiny. Asterisk, he stood at the edge of the field every morning, watching others run past him, their strides long and confident. His own steps felt slow, almost embarrassing. On the first day, he could barely jog for a minute before his chest burned and his legs begged him to stop. There was no applause, no visible progress, and no reason to believe this effort mattered. The same small steps again. Days passed, and nothing seemed to change. The mirror showed the same tired face. His life looked exactly as it had before he started. Doubt whispered that this was a waste of time, that real change was supposed to feel dramatic. But he kept going, not because he felt strong, but because he had made a quiet promise to himself. 1 minute became 2. 2 became 5. The stone he was pushing still hadn't moved, but the pressure against it was growing. Weeks later, something strange happened. One morning, he realized he was running without thinking about stopping. His breath was steady. His legs obeyed him. Change hadn't arrived in a single moment. It had been accumulating silently all along. Every step he once thought was useless had been storing strength inside him. That was when he understood the truth. Progress doesn't announce itself. It hides inside repetition. The early days feel heavy because you're not just moving forward, you're building momentum against resistance. Most people quit during this invisible phase, never knowing how close they were to breakthrough. He smiled as he ran. It's not because the journey was easy, but because he finally saw it. The smallest steps he once doubted had carried him here. And if tiny actions could change his body, he realized they could change his entire life, one quiet step at a time. Asterisk, when he first started, no one noticed him. Others around him were smarter, faster, and more naturally gifted. Some had connections, some had luck. He had none of that. What he did have was a simple routine he refused to break. Every morning, before the world demanded anything from him, he showed up and did the work. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't intense. It was just consistent. At times he felt foolish watching talented people leap ahead while he crawled forward. They seemed to succeed effortlessly, while his progress was slow and uncelebrated. Doubt crept in, asking why he was trying so hard. When others were clearly ahead, but instead of quitting, he returned the next day, and the next. Even on days when motivation disappeared, his habit remained. Months passed. Some of those naturally gifted people began to disappear. They skipped days, then weeks. They waited for inspiration to return. He didn't wait. He worked whether he felt ready or not. Small daily effort began stacking like bricks, forming a foundation too solid to shake. One day, someone finally noticed him. They asked how he had become so skilled, so disciplined, so dependable. He almost laughed. There was no secret, no shortcut, no moment of sudden genius. There were only countless ordinary days where he chose consistency over comfort. That was when he realized something powerful. Talent may open a door, and luck may give a head start, but only consistency keeps you in the race. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. While others chased perfect moments, he trusted small daily actions. And without realizing it, he had passed people who once seemed untouchable, not because he was better, but because he never stopped showing up. Asterisk, every evening, when the day slowed down, he stood at a quiet crossroads. No one else could see it, but he felt it clearly. One path was easy. It led to comfort, excuses, and the familiar habit of saying tomorrow. The other path was uncomfortable and small, demanding effort with no immediate reward. Each night, he chose one without thinking much about it, unaware that these tiny decisions were shaping his future. At first, the choices seemed meaningless. Choosing to read instead of scrolling. Choosing to practice instead of resting. Choosing to be patient instead of reacting in anger. Each decision took only minutes, and the results felt invisible. But slowly, something deeper began to change. He wasn't just completing tasks anymore, he was becoming someone different. One day, he noticed he no longer argued with himself before doing hard things. Discipline felt natural. Focus felt familiar. The person who once struggled to begin was now uncomfortable with quitting. Without realizing it, his identity had shifted. He was no longer someone trying to improve. He was someone who showed up. The world responded differently too. People trusted him more. Opportunities found him more often. It's not because luck had changed, but because he had changed. His small choices had trained him to act with purpose. Even when no one was watching, that was the moment he understood the quiet power of identity. Big results don't come from big promises. They come from small choices repeated until they define you. Each decision had been a vote for the man he was becoming. And once he became that person, success was no longer something he chased. It followed him naturally, built from thousands of tiny, unnoticed choices.